It's a lot harder to provide good commentary and analysis in short little video clips than it is to write it out, basically, which is what I'm used to doing. So if you go to Rangefire, which is where you must be as you're watching this, you'll see my other written commentary about that. So I'm not going to try to regurgitate all of that and summarize all of it for the whole week, but basically the defense did put on evidence and call witnesses for 2 days. On Wednesday, they called a number of different witnesses. They were basically government witnesses, FBI agents, refuge manager Chad Carges, others who had been called as witnesses for the federal government, and they were recalled by the defense to clarify some things and to shed further light on the defense case. On the final day of evidence this week, which was Thursday, yesterday, the defense only called 2 witnesses. They were the Reverend Franklin Graham and defendant Jeff Banta. And Reverend Graham talked about his role in helping to negotiate an ultimate and final resolution of the occupation. He was there on the ground. He'd been, I'll just say, and you've probably noticed it, that Jeff Banta is the one who recommended that they get Reverend Graham involved, because he said, this is Banta, said that he did not trust the FBI. He thought it would be a good idea to get an independent, neutral third party involved in the negotiations. To the FBI's credit, they reached out to Reverend Graham at Jeff Banta's suggestion. He got very heavily involved, and he was contacting and communicating with the remaining holdouts on a daily basis, and in the end, he did end up flying his own plane to Burns. He was taken to the refuge. He communicated with the holdouts there, and he was a very important part of the final wrap-up. Jeff Banta also testified about what happened there while he was there. And let's remember, Jeff Banta had visited the refuge for just 1 day, hadn't stayed a night. I think he was there on the 9th of January. He had a little bit of time. I've talked about this before. He wanted to see what was going on. He was really interested in what was going on with the Hammonds and how they were being treated. He wanted to go there and meet the Bundys and see if he could size things up. And when he had the opportunity several weeks later, he went back to the refuge to follow up on that. He was hoping at that time to basically have an opportunity to have someone make an introduction to the Hammond family so that he could see if he could actually help them out, work on the ranch or whatever the case may be. But in the amount of time that he was there, starting on the 25th of January, recognizing that Ammon and Ryan Bundy were arrested the next day on the 26th, he only had an opportunity to talk to them for a couple of minutes, basically make an introduction. And so he didn't have a chance to ask all the questions that he would have liked. He thought that he would have that chance later. They were gone then. And so he talks about what happened after that. He talks about the other people who showed up and what was going on there, what his motives and motivations were for going to the refuge, what he wanted to accomplish, and why he stayed after the other arrests and after so many of the people had left. And one of the biggest reasons he stayed, and David Fry stayed, and the Andersons stayed, is because they were afraid of what might happen to them if they left. They knew that Lavoy Finicum had been killed. They were genuinely concerned that they might likewise be killed, or that others might be killed, and they didn't know what to do. So they moved out of the headquarters buildings. They set up their own encampment in a tent in the west parking lot. And they were basically left behind, is what it boils down to. And they were just trying to figure out things the best they could. And they were just taking things day by day. And that's what Jeff Banta said. When Judge Brown asked him about his Fifth Amendment right to remain silent, and made sure that he knew that he didn't need to testify, he didn't need to say anything, and he said he understood that, but that he had nothing to hide. He said, I've done nothing wrong. I didn't do anything wrong when I went. I didn't do anything wrong while I was there, and I'm not afraid to talk about that. So Jeff Banta spent quite a bit of time testifying about his experiences at the refuge, and we've talked about that in the past.